What is good, guys? So today we're going to be talking about the news that broke a couple days ago. I believe it's been a couple days now, and that is that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be signing Baker Mayfield to a 1-year, $8.5 million deal. Baker Mayfield, he's had a wild career so far, folks. He's a walk-on at Oklahoma, wins the Heisman his last year there, nearly takes down Georgia in the playoff game, the Rose Bowl, and then he gets drafted number one overall by the Cleveland Browns, who were just a joke. They were not even the joke of the league, they were the joke of sports. I mean, they could not win a game. And then they draft Baker Mayfield, and they actually win like 7 games his rookie year. I believe they went 7-8-1. And that's not really good for any team, but for the Browns, that was like they won the Super Bowl. And then, they end up year 2 with Baker Mayfield. They regress horribly. But then year 3, Baker Mayfield takes over and they go to the playoffs. And they win a playoff game at Pittsburgh. They blew them out. It was insane. And then they nearly beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead. I mean, the Browns, they looked like they were heading in the right direction. Baker Mayfield looked like he was going to get a fat contract extension and be their franchise quarterback for the foreseeable future. And then year 4, he gets hurt, and they decide for some reason to pull the trigger on him. That they're just tired of his shenanigans. They're tired of his attitude. And they go ahead and trade for Deshaun Watson, and they trade away Baker Mayfield later in the offseason. Baker goes to the Panthers, wins the starting job, and doesn't really play that well. He eventually gets benched and comes back, but interim head coach Steve Wilkes didn't like what he saw, so Baker was like, am I going to be in the team's future plans? Wilkes said no. Baker said, well, then can you cut me, or I guess waive me? And Steve Wilkes granted his request, and they waived Baker Mayfield, and nobody claimed him off waivers until the Los Angeles Rams did. And, the Rams still had playoff hopes at this point, but they were riddled with injuries, and really they would have had a win out, and everyone above them would have basically had a lose out in order to get to the playoffs. And so Baker Mayfield, literally with like 2 nights to learn the system, plays that Thursday night football game against the Raiders and somehow brings them back in the final 2 minutes. It's not anything like I've ever seen before. And Baker, for the most part, with nothing to work with, and literally nothing to work with, practice squad weapons, he looked competent. I mean, they blew out a great Denver Broncos defense on Christmas Day. And, the future looks bright for Baker, I thought, but this is still Stafford's team. And so Baker opts to hit the market, and now the Buccaneers are going to sign him. And I think this is going to look really well. I'm going to get mocked for this, but I think Baker Mayfield, I stand by this, is a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. I think he can win a Super Bowl with Baker. He's got a really good arm. He's a really good athlete. Obviously, the personality is a bit of an issue, but I think it's not that big of an issue. He's sort of matured as he's gotten older. He's not a kid anymore. He's been in this league for a few years now. And, yeah, Tampa, you're not paying him a lot. If he really is a guy that doesn't work out, you can move off him like that. But if he is, well, then you have your quarterback of the future, post Brady, and you can extend him to a long-term deal this upcoming offseason. And so, yeah, I like the fit. I think Baker, despite the fact that he's lost Fournette, Cameron Brate, he still has Mike Evans, he still has Chris Godwin, he still has Scotty Miller, still has Tyler Johnson. At running back, you now have Chase Edmonds, and you have Rachaad White. So, yeah, new offensive coordinator, not just for Tampa, but for Baker too, obviously. Defense should be fine, and it's a weak division. I think right now Baker Mayfield's the best quarterback in that division. I think the division is absolutely winnable right now for any team, but especially for Tampa now that they have Baker Mayfield. Yeah, I think Baker, he's going to prove a lot of people wrong this season. I mean, he may not put up MVP like numbers, but starter numbers for sure. I mean, I can see him definitely completing 63, 64% of his passes. You know, throwing for 3,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, 10 picks, something like that, He at bare minimum. And folks, that's the thing. Even if you don't think he can win a Super Bowl, he's definitely a starter. Like, the narrative that he's a backup, no. Don't know why anybody thinks he is a backup, because even when he was hurt, even at his worst moments, he's played like a starter. So that's a bit confusing. And the one time that he didn't play like a starter was in year 2 when he was continuing to develop under a tire-fire organization. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on Baker Mayfield. I think he's going to work out. Not picking my division winner just yet, although Tampa is, right now, I think, the front runners to do that. And, yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this video on Baker Mayfield. Please like, comment, and subscribe. More content is coming. And I'll see you guys in the next one.